Welcome to the newest episode of Life Lessons in Hindsight, where we explore the wisdom that comes from looking back. I'm Teresia, a life and mindset coach for women over 40. Like you, I've navigated life's highs and lows and worn many hats, from nurse practitioner to chemical engineer, and started over more times than I can count. This podcast is for women ready to embrace self-compassion, learn from the past, and step boldly into their next chapter. Join me as we share stories, reflect, and discover the art of turning hindsight to foresight. Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome to episode 8. I hope the summer has been going well. I took some time off and, I've had my ups and downs, but it's all good. I'm ready with this episode. So I originally thought I was going to be talking about the idea of shame. Like there was something that happened and I wanted to talk about shame. But then as I was planning for the episode, I realized shame has nothing to do with it. The problem is never shame. The problem is never negative emotions. The problem is that we get stuck in that space and can't figure out our way out of it. Like as humans, life is 50-50. I've said it before. You're going to experience positive things and negative things. But the moment we get stuck in any one place, when we get brought down by shame, when we get brought down by the feelings of not enoughness, and that preoccupies our time, we're not doing the things we want to do in our lives. We're not progressing. We're not growing. We're not accomplishing our goals. We're just stuck in this cycle of shame or disappointment or anger or whatever it is. And negative feelings have that sneaky thing. They do that to you. They sort of take you out unless you understand how to manage them and see them. So let's get started. As usual, I live life in stories. I think we all do. Look, I come from an African culture and stories was how I learned things, people narrating things. My father was such a good storyteller. He would tell these stories of, and there's always an ethical lesson in it, but he would tell it in such a funny way that it became really memorable. So I love stories. Anyway, so I've got an older child who's college bound and we've largely been not ignoring him. He's struggled in school and now the chickens have come home to roost and it's time to apply to colleges and he's not getting in the places that he wants to or not getting the kind of excitement and recognition that he's seeing other people who have put in more work getting. And we've been frustrated. He's been frustrated. And what I'm realizing, he's also been stuck in a lot of shame. And he's not alone. I do it too. A lot of people women I coach do it too. It's not unusual to be so embarrassed about your behavior or output or performance in a certain area and wanting to hide from it, right? For me, that's how shame shows up, that I don't do the thing as well as I wanted to, and you think everyone is looking at you and you feel everyone is watching. What's Brené Brown's definition of shame again? I had pulled it up here. She says, shame is a deeply painful feeling of believing that you are flawed and unworthy of love and belonging. That's what it does. You feel like there's a spotlight on you, but that's all in your imagination, because in reality, everyone else is busy being preoccupied with themselves. And so maybe they'll briefly sit up and look up at you, but we're pretty good about making things about us. So whilst you're in this space of shame and feeling like the world is watching and you're not good enough and you just need to hide and you're useless, you're not moving forward. And this is where I caught my kid. Now, I'm kind of embarrassed because as a parent, I should have seen it coming. I should have seen my child's tendencies. So there's a part of me that's like, you dropped the ball there. Now, I'm divorced from my partner. And so, sometimes there's this back and forth and it's so easy to drop the ball. But I got to call myself out. I got to call my ex out. We failed to show leadership here and support our kid the way he needed to be supported, particularly when we understand him and understand his tendencies. So I think he's been stuck in a shame spiral with this college thing. So I catch him. And the only reason why I catch him is I overheard him having a conversation with a family friend. And the way he explained his college situation, I was like, what? He doesn't sound confident. That doesn't sound like my confident kid. Like, what's up? I know we've got a lot of things that we need to work on, but dude, he doesn't sound confident. And what I mean by that is sometimes you haven't played up the way you want to play up. But in order to move forward, you've got to be able to muster confidence. You've got to be able to say, all right, I fucked up over here, but what do I have? What am I working with? And what are my options based on what I'm working with? He wasn't doing that. And that I recognized. So I quickly mobilized myself. We ran around yesterday to all these different colleges, several hours away. And what happened in a space of 24 hours, gosh, as a parent, it just makes me so emotional. You know, when you see your kid back, happy, excited, I could see that he is starting to paint a picture of what the next 4 years can look like for him, or the next chapter of his life can look like for him. And that's what I wanted, because what I was seeing before is somebody who's hiding, embarrassed, and feeling like he is just not good enough and he is like this reject. And that wasn't true. He's got a ton of things going on for him, but he had fumbled in a couple of places. We needed to acknowledge that. But my God, there was just so much working for him, and he wasn't seeing that. In a space of 24 hours, we were able to create that, or he was able to create that for himself. Now, here's what's interesting is I could do that easily as a mom. It's easy for me to see the places he's missing and see how I can support him. But it's not easy for me to see it within myself. I struggle with shame too. I'm human. And shame takes me out. Shame does the same thing that it did to him to me. It makes me stop. It makes me hesitate. It makes me want to hide. It makes me feel embarrassed. It makes me feel like a hypocrite. I can list so many things that on the surface I've shared even with my friends, and they'll be like, what? You're going through that? Right? But in truth, we're all going through our versions of that we put on this facade that all is going well, but inside we're trapped by these negative emotions because we don't know what to do with them. So we can get stuck in these negative emotions that we don't know what to do with them. And so here is a few things that I do and I did with my son, right? But I do with myself when I get around to realizing what's happening, when I get around to realizing that, okay, you seem to be hijacked with this negative spiral and we need to get out of it. The first step is always awareness. I say this all the time. It's almost like this is the only thing I have to talk about. But truly, you cannot solve a problem. You just can't solve a problem if you don't know what the problem is. And there's one thing in being able to define shame in theory, and it's another thing entirely being able to recognize what shame looks like in you. How does shame show up for you? How does anger show up for you? How does hiding show up for you? It looks different from the next person. And there's a signature to it. There's the beginnings of shame, there's when I'm deep in it, and there's when I'm coming out of it. And different stages of that, or that signature that I've shown, that it has a different kind of hook or impact to you and your ability to function. When I'm deep in shame, it's like I'm stuck like a deer in the headlights, and I can't make decisions. I don't know what to do next, right? It like stops me in my tracks. And all I'm feeling is that bad feeling over and over again. It's almost like as if I can't get out of it, you know? And it's very different from the beginnings of shame where I kind of feel the feeling lightly, but I'm able to push it back and keep going. Like, you've got to understand what the negative emotion looks like within yourself, right? So awareness. It's not just theoretically knowing the thing. It's about being able to recognize the signature in you. Big difference. Theory and actuality. Theory and how it's operationalized in your body. Very, very different. You've got to connect with it. Like, what does it mean to me? How do I feel? What kind of thoughts do I have when I'm ashamed? What do you start to do? Because sometimes you can't even recognize the thoughts. But I'll tell you, for me, the hiding, oh God, when I saw it in my kid, I was like, that's exactly what I do too. I don't show up. I skirt. If you ask me questions, I'll like pivot and not want to talk about it. I don't want to deal. I don't want to think about it. It's like you're burying your head in the sand because it's so uncomfortable. But when I'm doing that and when I'm in that space, when when shame has a grip on me, I can't even recognize that that's what I'm doing sometimes. And so the awareness is about getting really good at seeing it in yourself. And you're going to have trials. Like, I think that I'm stuck in this space less and less. Like, it takes me out for less time. And that itself is progress. And when I'm frustrated that, oh my God, you're still dealing with shame, Teresia, what's up with this? That sometimes I need to look at myself and say, yeah, okay, but it's not the way it was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, this thing would have taken you out for 3 weeks. The fact that it's just a couple of days, that's good. And that's part of what I want to teach my kid. That this thing that's just happened to you for the past several months, yeah, that's shame. That's how it shows up in you. And here's how to get out. Can you see the before and after? Just 24 hours, not even 20. We left the house at 7:30, drove, 2 hours, saw a school, drove to another school for an hour, was in that school for those info sessions that they have, and then hustled all the way back. It was a day trip. And the before and after of his emotion, in fact, even when we had planned it the day before, the weekend before, when we were planning it, he was just even more excited. And that excitement just grew. That's how you get out of shame. You get into action. Sitting and feeling the thing and being stuck in the theme and being trapped in that state, that's not moving you forward. The only thing that moves you forward is the first step out of it. It's a decision to do something different. And then you're offering your brain a different experience. That the story in your mind isn't just the shame story. It's always oh God, I did all this other thing and that can get me excited. Give yourself something else to do. Because again, when you're hijacked with that negative emotion and you can't see it and you're not aware of it, that's all you're doing is feeling the thing and getting really good at feeling the thing. People who are mobilized and people who are active have felt the negative thing and also felt another feeling. They've created a different experience within themselves too. What I did with my son yesterday was about creating an alternative experience, and giving him and his brain something else to do. Because otherwise the alternative is just sitting there and being stuck and getting better and better at being stuck. Like, that's what you're perfecting when you're sitting in a space of negativity and not moving into action. That's what you're settling for. So number one is be aware, and not just be aware in theory, but see and realize how does it show up in you. And the way it shows up is kind of different sometimes depending on the scenario. So you've got to get very granular about how shame is for you and how does shame show up for you. Like, for example, for me, shame showed up a certain way when I was getting a divorce. In that space and in the conversation around, I'm breaking up my home. I was telling myself that my kids are going to have a less than experience. This is not the experience they were supposed to have. You did a shit job. You didn't do well. You're damaging them. I can't see a better life other than other than the vision I had of being married and like having my children be raised in a home where you've got both parents and they're giving and all this kind of stuff. Like, in my brain, I wasn't allowing myself to see that, okay, there's another alternative to this, that you can create an entire world that's able to accomplish the same core things as you are saying that this original version that you had is able to accomplish. And the only way I knew that that life exists is that I got busy creating it, right? I got busy creating the alternative and building it for myself and my children and see them thrive. Now I can say, yeah, divorce isn't the end. I can say that with confidence because I've done it. But that's the job, though. right? Awareness and then action. So that's number 2. What is your first step, right? What is your, and it's guys, it's not about being perfect. My first steps are shitty. It's a shitty first draft. But what's the choice? No draft and keep dreaming about a perfect end, like a perfect product that you will produce off the bat. Like that's unrealistic, right? So this is the what can I say? This is the downside of not attempting your shitty first draft. This is the downside of not saying, all right, first, think like, okay, let me mine my brain. When I say mine, it's like a gold mine in here. Go and mine your own brain for your idea of what your first step should be. Your brain works. Stop acting like your brain doesn't work. Try it. And if it doesn't fail, and if it fails, or if it doesn't work out, it fails, analyze what happened. What can I do better? I was telling my youngest son is going to be driving in the next 8 months, at least starting to drive. And I looked at him and told him that, if I can drive, anyone can drive. I was terrible. I was so bad. But I'm a functional driver now. And the only reason why I'm a functional driver is that I went with it. I was okay with being terrible until I wasn't terrible anymore. That's what practice is. Right? Otherwise, what's the alternative? That I wasn't going to be able to drive in this country? It's hard to do. I can imagine if I wasn't able to get around and be as free as I was in the context I'm living. So we need to be okay with that shitty first draft. That's okay. You cannot hold yourself. Can you imagine the first time you go into behind a wheel and you're judging your accomplishments? Because that's what we do. We judge our accomplishments when we're beginning, right? And we judge ourselves based on the end product. So here's what I mean. You get behind a wheel and you're not doing well the first time you go for your driving lesson. And you're reprimanding yourself and comparing yourself to the people who are driving effortlessly. And not for 1 second do we think, in the case of driving a car, all the things that need to come into place for you to do that action well. You need to know how to operate the vehicle, right? Like the things to press and push and the pedals you're stepping on. You need to understand that logistics. Your brain has to do all these things at one time. It needs to be aware. You need to be aware of your car, right? The size of your car. So you're not busy hitting things. You need to also be aware of oncoming traffic in your environment. You need to anticipate what other people are doing, right? So, when there's defensive driving, that's about putting yourself in someone else's head and also being able to anticipate an error that they make that might cause you harm. All that stuff needs to happen at the same time. So how can you ask yourself to be able to do all those things simultaneously day one? Honestly, give yourself some grace and compassion. That to me is the idea of the shitty first draft. It's going to be crap, but you're going to learn from it. You're telling yourself that, okay, we're gonna have an attempt. This attempt is not going to be great. But guess what? My brain works, and I get to assess that attempt after X, Y, and Z. I hope this is making sense. So, okay, with shame, quick recap. There's the awareness, but it's not just a theoretical awareness. There's an awareness within you. How does that thing, that problem, that negative emotion show up in you? In this instance and in other instances. Really show yourself how this problem shows up in your life. Because I always say if something's happening in one place, odds are it's happening in other places. Which is why this coaching work is so great, because if you're solving a problem that appears in one place, again, it's probably appearing in other places. So it kind of compounds. Work in one area compounds to help you in other areas of your life. That's what's so powerful about coaching. So there's that awareness. And then the next thing is to be okay with the shitty first draft. Really be okay with a shitty first draft and even probably before that, is expecting and demanding of yourself to take a step into action, right? Actually, maybe that's step 2, right? So you're aware, and then you're forcing yourself to act. You're saying, I can't just sit here in the negative emotion feeling bad. I need to do something. I need to give myself something, my brain, something else to focus on. Otherwise, the negative emotions are about the only thing you're thinking of over and over again. So you need to just bring in some other options for your brain to focus on. And you minimize the volume in which that negative shit is in your brain. So if you are 100% of the time thinking about this negative emotion, if you start going into action, now it's 50% of the volume of your thinking is dedicated to negative emotion or less. And that alone will make you feel better because you're not doing that full time. Okay? Then when you're deciding to go into action is to be okay with a crappy first draft. Shitty first draft, crappy first draft, it's all the same. You're going to suck. You're going to suck until you don't. And even then, I don't know that you're ever perfect. You just really get good at something and you make less mistakes. But we're never really perfect. That should never be the goal. We're always learning. I've been a parent for 18 years and I still managed to make really big mistakes like this one. I'm sure eventually he would have learned from it, but oh gosh, that's not the way I want to parent. I want to be ever observant and conscious and being able to pull myself out of the picture and really focus on how do I support him the way he needs to be supported? How do I hold him accountable? But how do I also give him support and compassion? Right? How do I love my child and also offer boundaries and be firm? And I didn't do that. And I've been at it for 18 years. And gosh, I can't even begin to list the mistakes I do with my youngest son. But I'm much better at calling myself out on it and mobilizing myself to change once I realize, oh gosh, you've messed up here. And I want you to be able to do that for you. I want to be able to do that more for me. So recognize the first emotion. What was that second thing? Is giving your brain something else to do other than being upset and emotional and stuck in a negative emotion. And the third thing is getting into action and being okay with a crappy first draft. Those are the 3 things. I can tell you this. What I saw in my kid this past 48 hours has been really shocking and a great reminder to myself, right? That when we're in it, it's hard to pull ourselves out of it. And when you want to transform your life and do incredible things, it starts with little stuff like this. Being able to get yourself out of negative spirals faster. Being able to recognize how negativity or shows up in you. Things like shame. Things like perfectionist thinking. How is that stopping you? Like being aware of how is this stuff stopping you from getting to where you want to go? How are we wasting time being stuck in not feeling good enough? And how is that preventing us from the thing? 1 year spent feeling like you're not good enough is 1 year wasted not getting the goals you want to get. Period. Like, there's this word in Swahili, changamka, like wake the fuck up. You've got to move. Like there's so much life to live. Why are we spending our life hiding in shame, embarrassment, all that stuff? It's like, last thing, I promise. But I struggle with my weight. Many women that I know struggle with their weight. And the story is always the same. I gave birth and I wasn't able to shed my birth weight, or I went through stress and now here I am. And what's crazy is how we tend to like withdraw from the world because of we are comfortable of the size we are. We're not showing up in that swimming bathing suit because we don't want to be criticized. We are dressing a certain way because we're so uncomfortable. And we'll spend years in that discomfort versus either accepting where the size we are, right? And doing something about it. Either you're like if you're overweight and you're uncomfortable with the size you are, here are your options. You either are doubling down in the size. So figuring out, how do we make the best of this? Like, again, going into action versus being stuck in the emotion of I don't look good, right? Or you are losing weight. Again, that's another path. You're going into action. Or maybe you can do both. You can look good and mobilize yourself to getting into a healthier weight. But sitting and just being ashamed of weight that's a crappy life. But a lot of us accept that as something that we tolerate it. We tolerate it within ourselves. But it takes up a lot of time and energy in negative space. And I don't know about you. I'm trying really hard to control that. I'm trying really hard to have more self-control of me. I'm trying really hard to not allow negative emotions to make up the bulk of my experience here on earth. And I'm not saying that I'm not going to have negative emotions, but I'm not saying I'm not walking through the world miserable by choice. That negative things happen. But why would I want to also add to it with manufacturing and creating negativity within myself, which is what I found myself doing. And this is what my son has been doing to himself. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. Just a quick and short episode, but take care of yourself. And if you want to hear more, you know where to find me on Instagram. I post a thing or two there, or feel free to always DM me. DM me with your questions. DM me if you're interested in learning about coaching. DM me if you have specific questions around an experience that I've shared that you resonate with. All right, take care. See you next time. Thank you for joining me on Life Lessons in Hindsight. Your time and attention mean the world to me. If you found today's episode insightful, please consider prescribing and share it with a friend who may need a little inspiration. Don't forget to visit the show notes for more resources and connect with me on Instagram at Coaching with Teresia. Remember, every single thing happens for a reason. Just find the lesson and you'll be okay. Take care.